Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for watching those ads. We should be started in the next like 30 seconds or so, but I was just about to tell Rifkin that I was on the
She's like,
flight from San Diego to LAX, which is a very useless flight. It's like half an hour. Um,
it
I
was nice and
was,
short. That's how I had to take that one.
yeah, I was with a bunch of the Special Olympians, like, which is pretty cool.
Wait, like,
Like the Special Olympians.
yeah, so like people who are like injured or missing limbs and stuff like that. You mean,
Yeah.
or okay?
So they
I
like
didn't
they
know,
all
dude.
got
I didn't realize it. I was just. Does she just hold regular Olympians like really high
like
regards? Like,
really
is there
really special.
special? Like,
Oh.
okay, sorry. Go on, go on.
It's really unfortunate because I know that was going on like very shortly after the other Olympics. Actually, I don't know what the appropriate word is for them, but and no one really watched it, which really sucks because some of those guys are actually like super impressive. The guy that I went, I guess, in line with, because every single one of these guys and girls, I guess, got like kind of like the freebie, like the speed pass version of
Yeah,
the
boarding
TSA.
Olympians. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think one was like a shot putter, which is super cool. I would have
Oh
talked
yeah.
to him if I was any more of a outgoing person.
I was gonna say you used to do shot put, right?
I did shot put very poorly, but I did know how to do it, yes.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a brand new semifinals. A best of five continues with the TvT between GuMiho and Ryung. Spawning the bottom right side of the map is going to be me getting kicked offline.
Oh, I was like, wait a second. that just happened. Um,
Thank you,
uh,
Korean BattleNet servers, for no reason abusing me like a redhead stepchild. I have
well,
I have anger, so I'm just going to mute myself. Have
okay.
fun.
Well, anyways, in the bottom right, as the red Terran, he is GuMiho. He muted himself and he turned off his webcam. In the top left, as the blue Terran, he is Ryung. And he's also proxying, so he proxied with 2 SCVs. This game might not last very long. This is going to be pretty dedicated. Not just a single, like, one barracks proxy that maybe you see versus Protoss, and it gets, like, a couple of worker kills, and then they go home and they do whatever else. This is actually proxying every single production facility you have with the choice of Reapers, of course, still. It's not going to be Marines, which would be really weird. But GuMiho, you know, he's not going to scout, apparently, at all. If he does, it'll be so late that even if, like, he got all the way across the map without there being a proxy Reaper, he would be walled off anyways, I would think. But anyway, if he's going for a one-base build, that wouldn't really matter so much. Like, you still want to know what your opponent is doing for sure. But if you go for a one-base build, then you should have the tools to defend. As opposed if you go for one-rack expand, sometimes you just literally do not have enough production to defend. And certainly if you're going to do a one-rack expand, you need to know that they are proxying all 3 barracks now. So maybe you can put the command center on the high ground. That only helps so much, though. You get maybe a faster second barracks, or you hold off on the reactor just to get units out. I think GuMiho, once he recognizes what build it is, it's not just a single proxy Reaper. It's not even 2 proxy Reapers, it's 3. He actually might legitimately tap out. His factory's about halfway done, but it's going to be stalled out by this Reaper here. I would assume. I guess he didn't know where the Reaper was. He was like, what the... so no, that is stalled out. A bunker's even going to be put on the high ground for Ryung, for his Reapers to get into. It's not just a Heli hut, too, by the way. That would actually provide some damage to the factory. At 2 Reapers versus 2, GuMiho did react in time to not just get a reactor here. But Ryung, of course, is going to have some very quick reinforcements. He's going to have more reinforcements as well. And GuMiho is doing the best that he can with limited units. He's waiting for the Helling to pop out. His Reaper goes down, though, without taking care of Ryung's Reaper that barely survives. That should be targeted down. Okay, the Marine gets it. Marine actually going to get another Reaper so close to it. Actually, GuMiho's not doing a bad job holding at all. He canceled the command center, which kind of sucks. But remember that Ryung's production all on the front lines. If he has to go back in macro, it's going to be really hard to do that. Building additional facilities is not so bad, like continuing his one base could still work out, but those Reapers are really supposed to snowball more. A lot of that has to do with the fact that GuMiho did not go for a reactor right after his first Reaper. The fact that he got a second Reaper was very, very helpful. The Marines on top were kind of, you know, there's something, right? You gotta produce from what you have, but it was really about getting to the Hellions. And now that he has 2 Hellions, it's going to be very difficult for Ryung to actually get a good enough concave and good enough, like, Reaper shots to kill both of them. He does find a Reaper that GuMiho was hoping to get across the map to get a couple of free SCV kills and, of course, scouting, but that's still only a small bit of it. Now, as they're both on one base, the economy isn't really that bad. It's all about Ryung's production, though, in the future. And GuMiho actually got faster to his starport, by the way. Makes sense. He didn't have 2 extra barracks and however many extra Reapers that he had to afford. So he's gonna have a Liberator out. By the time it makes its way across across the map, it should be, yeah, facing a Cyclone and a Viking, I would say. Ryung goes back in. He brings one of the barracks up here for vision in case he loses it. He does have all of the Reapers, like, alive, fairly healthy, actually regaining energy, and a decent enough concave that maybe he could take on the Marine Hellion force. But now as Cyclone's out, the Liberator sieges up to help too. A couple grenades go down, but they actually weren't that impressive. The Hellions do go down too. Marines dodge another grenade. Start killing the one barracks. Looks really weird to see this, but it is Ryung's barracks. Cyclone, I mean, that could have been targeted down by the Reapers. It does not have a lot of health. But that was always... That would have been like a terrible scenario for GuMiho to have that happen. The barracks goes down. Other 2 barracks go home. That's a pretty big dip in production. You know, GuMiho's got 2 Marines at a time. Not super big deal, as, of course, in the early to mid-game, and this is a very hard game to say, like, mid-game with timings, because it was so delayed, but, like, to the early game, TvT really relies on tech, not necessarily pure army units, just, like, a bigger army. So the fact that they both look to the starport and they've chosen to go for, one person goes for a Banshee, the other person goes for a Raven, that's going to be more important to see what those units can do than necessarily about getting the faster Marine production. And I don't even think GuMiho's going to get that much faster on Stim either. Yeah, in fact, Ryung might go for double tech labs with the barracks so he can get both upgrades for his Marines a lot quicker, Stim and combat shields. 2 Cyclones look pretty unimpressive against 2 barracks, gotta say. They do find the Reapers. Told you, Reapers can totally kill the Cyclones, and they're gonna get both Cyclones without even the help of the grenades, really. Almost trade out perfectly even. Now, Ryung's still down 10 army supply. Still hasn't dealt with the Liberator, which I don't know how his Viking missed. It's like over here. I thought it died. But it's locked down by the Cyclone, and that does not deny much mining for very long. GuMiho is pushing out, and I was talking about how, like, usually the amount of Marines you have in the early game is just, it's not that important. Especially on, like, a huge map like Apotheosis, where reinforcements are going to be very, very slow against higher tech. So if Ryung had, like, you know, 1 or 2 defensive tanks, or 1 or 2 cloaked Banshees, like the one he's using right now, then he can snipe the Marines, he can snipe the tank, stuff like that, but... I mean, GuMiho actually moving across the map. Again, reinforce is not going to be that quickly. He might not be able to defend appropriately against the Banshee, although he scans in the middle of the map and takes care of it, so that's defending it. A second Banshee's already here. 2 Cyclones as well. Auto turret's put down, but the Banshee goes down too, and GuMiho, if it wasn't for the Raven, I think that Ryung actually dodges enough scans that the Banshee is able to hold for him. But with the Raven still alive, although it did almost die... Ryung doesn't really have an answer, and Ryung also went for like a super quick 3rd command center, which was pretty damn greedy of him. I think he loses for these 2 reasons. He just can't get enough army. These Marines do not have Stim, they don't even have combat shields. He's trying to take care of it with SCVs. If he had 2 Banshees at full health with the pool of the SCVs, he probably takes down that tank, and then he could take care of the Marines after. But it took way too long. Oh, now GuMiho's own Banshee, which actually Ryung can't deal with. GG. GuMiho takes game number 1. Damn it. Whoops, wrong one. Hello.
Hi. Sorry I had a little silent rage fest.
I don't mind the silence, but the fact that you hang up the call is always a little weird.
Well, so I started doing the fuzzy thing towards the end of the cast. It's a little frustrating. For those who don't know the situation, just to update what's going on, we've consistently, this was a problem we haven't experienced since the beta, where for whatever reason, even though I'm not lagging, like the bot doesn't disconnect that's tracking Partoofs, the call suffers no instances of lag. I could cast for hours endlessly on the North American and European server without issue. Just for whatever reason, the Korean server of StarCraft, I just got kicked off again as we're sitting here speaking. Like, Battle.net may be temporarily unavailable, or your internet connection may be down. The game will not try to reconnect, and then it won't, so I have to Alt F4, and it sucks. And there's just no reason for it.
Yeah. It's unfortunate there's just no reason, fix. No one's explaining, fixing the problem.
And by the way, this is something where we had taken this to Blizzard before, and their engineers also had no idea what was causing it. So this isn't something where... Oh, okay, I can't even reconnect this time. Cool.
Oh.
And it's just really loud. Excellent.
Well, this might just be a solo cast.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna fix anything. Guys, I'm gonna just explain this before I go. Well, I'm not leaving, but well, it's not gonna fix anything. I am going to restart router and everything. That means I am gonna lose connection on the bot. The bets will not disappear. They stay there because it's just connection. The bot's not losing power. The computer's not turning off. But I'm gonna restart everything. So the bot's gonna be out of chat for a few minutes. Don't freak out. Enjoy the solo cast. Good luck. Have fun. I'll be back in a bit.
All right. Well. Game number 2 in the bottom right. As the red Terran, he is GuMiho. In the top left, as the blue Terran, he's Ryung. And Ryung being down 1 after a cheese. It happens, I suppose, but he really... Whoopsie. He was in a very good position to have that cheese work. It's a little surprising that it didn't, really. Apotheosis, a decent map for Reapers. Has a couple of cliffs to utilize. Really, the downside of Apotheosis is that it is so... It's such a big map that if you Reaper cheese from your main base, it takes a long time, as opposed to, like, Frozen Temple, right? So the proxy was pretty necessary, but, like, proxied right up against GuMiho's base, not scouted for a long time. It was just super fortunate that GuMiho was able to get that second Reaper. If the reactor starts, you can cancel it, and you can start building a Reaper, sure. But even then, that's like important seconds lost. And with only 1 Reaper, I think that would have been game over. There are certainly also some situations where maybe Ryung could have microed the tiniest bit better, but I actually think his micro was pretty on point. There's a couple times where he didn't lose a Reaper that was very, very low health, so I can't necessarily even blame that. It was just GuMiho reacting very appropriately. And of course, the cancel the command center and all that, it worked out. I would say that Ryung also wasn't in a terrible position in the mid-game, whatever you really want to call it, I suppose, because again, calling it early mid-game is kind of deceiving when the timer was so off-put by the early racks, but it was that he went for the 3rd CC on location, he didn't get the Banshee to do what they were supposed to, that really snowballed into his loss, because yes, he was down about 25 army supply, but it was in like really basic units. Had he had a bit more... you know, X or Y, basically, micro or positioning, he probably could have held. But this is another proxy. It's going to be the Starport proxy this time. The Reaper should not be able to get a freebie scout. If it gets in, it will be able to scout the lack of a starport, but it really should not be able to get in. It's King Sejong Station. There's only 1 entrance over here, and if you go all the way back here, that would take a long time, and maybe you predict it, or you just have it walled off, which Ryung does. So very nicely done by him. The proxy starport should be a complete surprise. This is going to mean the Banshee, whatever he's getting from here, Banshee or Liberator, is going to be, okay, Liberator, a lot faster, a lot quicker than you would expect. It's also going to make sure that it does arrive before the Viking, unless GuMiho had gone for a Viking first, which... I don't think you really want to do if you're going for a 1 base 1-1-1. If you're going for a 2 base 1-1-1 follow-up, which is like most other Terran builds, then sure, get a Viking first, but... he does swap. He actually canceled that Liberator. Like quadruple checking, because that's a bit of a surprise. But in doing so, he will have the Viking out in time. It builds pretty quickly. You know, 30 seconds, not that bad. And I guess he just figured something was a little off, or maybe just changed his mind. You know, only 5 seconds in the Liberator is not too big of a deal, and that's actually going to save him a lot of headache, as the Vikings also rallied to the appropriate location. And that Liberator it could try and get like 1 SCV kill, and it should be the Command Center SCV, but it's trying to escape, just barely gets out of there in time. A little bit faster than the Viking, but almost died anyway. So it's kind of useless, you know? Like, you can't really come back in there with only, I think it's going to be 2-shot, I want to say, by a Viking. Yeah. It's, not too useful. It has to be repaired first. So that totally negates the proxy. The cloak has been scouted by the Viking. It's going to be camped now as well. Ryung is bringing a Cyclone over. That's the only thing that's going to be able to shoot that Viking down, or at least shoo it away from the starport. But GuMiho, I think, actually predicting this, tries to send his army over here as well. Misses the timing, unfortunately, and will lose his Viking for it. Ryung can now start the Banshee. Finds a single Hellion. Oopsie. Oh, that Cyclone is doomed now, actually. There's no escape. And Cloak is cancelled. Ryung's proxy is not working out here. It's trickery. He is, I mean, like, okay, before anyone calls, like, what is he doing? Looking over at Ryung's screen? Like, no, he's not doing that, but GuMiho is usually the trickster, I would say. Like, you think GuMiho, you think maybe Mech God for back in the day. Wow, these Supers doing surprising amount of damage. And maybe you think of his proxies, you know, like on King's Age Young Station against Protoss. He was like the first time that I saw it, at least. He'll cheese, he'll do weird stuff, he'll do out of the box, out of the ordinary stuff, but it's Ryung who's trying to get the surprise on this guy. And a lot of the times, if you yourself are like a cheeser or an all-winner or a weird kind of play style, you're really good at playing against that same type of play style. There's also certainly a bit of a luck coming in here as well for GuMiho, but I think he's also just reading really well into what Ryung is showing him. Marines do see the double drop on the way, but there's not much he can really do. This is 2 tanks. They're going to be able to siege up and then be maneuvered around at the cost of the rest of the drops, sure, but that might just be fine for GuMiho. Ryung once again went for a fairly greedy timed 3rd base on location. The fact that it's on location really isn't the problem, by the way. It is just the fact that he invested 400 minerals into it. And this might just be another game over. Ryung trying to get this super surprise Banshee by getting it late and still proxied. But that's only going to do so much damage. GuMiho is still producing Vikings. He's going to get the command center. It's so close to dying. The SCVs are being taken care of by the tanks in the low ground. And Ryung only has 2 Cyclones. He's about to have a tank, but that actually might be shot down. Command center goes down, and that's going to be game. Even though he has the 3rd command center, he's lost SCVs, he doesn't have enough army, and he's now lost a command center. The Cyclone, oh my god, helps out a lot versus that 1 tank, and it finally does go down without the Cyclone go down. Ooh, it's close. But the Vikings can now land. Reinforcements are coming along. Took a while. The King Sejong, I'd say it's still a shorter path than Apotheosis, but it's just too much, regardless. Ryung tried his best to hold, but this is game over. GuMiho is not... I think it's really important is that GuMiho is not letting Ryung take control over the game. Because there's certainly times where you'll see a pro Terran, it's not like it's a bad Terran or anything like that, like a really good Terran, scout a proxy, or scout an all-in, or X or Y. Wow, Ryung's really not wanting to leave this game. He's hoping the Banshee can really do it, I guess. The Banshee has actually started killing a lot of SCVs, but GG. GuMiho takes game number 2. To finish my point, again, stupid thingamajigger. Just put his image up. There we go. To finish my point is that they'll scout the proxy, the all-in, the cheese, like whatever, and they might be able to defend against it, but that's all they'll do is they'll be super defensive. So the 3rd CC on location, that little gap of time where your production's very low because you get the greedy command center, it all kind of evens out towards the end. They were defensive, you were a little bit greedy, and you maybe even get a lead off of that, even though the proxy didn't do any damage. GuMiho's not letting that happen. He's just attacking Ryung when it hurts, where it hurts, and taking a 2-0 lead. I'm gonna go to a really quick commercial break, just a minute long, while they get the lobby set up, so see you guys soon. Welcome back. We're into game number 3. Could be the last game in this series. In the bottom right, up 2, he is the red Terran, GuMiho. In the top left, as the blue Terran, he is Ryung. And his proxies just aren't doing it. Like, even whether they're scouted or not, they're just not actually getting the damage or the fear factor, I suppose, necessary to really be worth it. First game really looked like he was going to take the win. Unfortunately, GuMiho reacted very appropriately, and even a little bit of luck going into that. Second game, a little bit of luck too. We were getting in there and scouting, having the Viking in the appropriate position right off the bats, killing that Liberator. And then, of course, GuMiho with the just perfect kind of decision-making, because again, all of these things can be scouted and they can be defended against, but if you defend too much, you do risk letting your opponent get back in the game if they're appropriately greedy, like, you know, safely greedy kind of thing. And GuMiho's just not letting that happen. He's going for the drops, he's going for the aggressive maneuvers that can backfire sometimes, you know, like one well-placed Viking from Ryung takes on one of those medevacs before the drop really initiates. So helpful. One well-placed missile turret that stops the drop from fully unloading, that's very helpful. Like, these are things that he can do. It's not actually happening. GuMiho's hitting those really strong points. And thank you to Velvil Bilkin for the new sub, and Leomin for the 28-month resub. Oh yeah, and then Ace Band. Excuse me. So another one base versus one base build. I mean, TvT. Sometimes they can both go for Reaper expands. I mean, hell, even on like New Gettysburg, we've seen TvT go to 3 bases right off the bat. That's been some of the oddest, like, greedy mirror I've ever seen in TvTs when they both go for 3 CCs. But this time, this is the one base versus one base. The Reaper war, I think, was gonna go in favor of Ryung, but oh well. Command center on the way for Ryung. Not bothering with proxies this time. It wasn't a Reaper expand, it was a factory expand, but GuMiho actually going for that one base 1-1-1. We'll have a couple more units to work with, and of course that faster tech with the starport. So whatever comes out of that, a Liberator or a Banshee, I don't think he'll get a Medevac or a Viking. But either way, whatever comes out of that is going to give him some good leverage. Actually takes the fight up the ramp. Originally goes terrible, I would say, for GuMiho. His Hellion almost died right off the bats, but then it wasn't focus fired, so it ended up going okay for both sides, I guess. Command Center is put down for GuMiho. Doesn't have too many the more expensive units coming out from these 1-on-1, like a tank or whatever, but just rather the Hellion, Reactor, and a Liberator. Once again, gonna try and reach up this ramp. He focus fires on top of that one Reaper. GuMiho's Hellion is not gonna go down, it looks like. His Reaper not gonna go down. There we go. But it does cost Ryung his Hellion, and he really doesn't have a lot of production. His Reactor, I think, just recently finished up, so only on 2 Marines. The Reaper's still alive, take care of the Marines as well, and they can heal back up. They're gonna get grenades in the SCV lines. Cyclone actually isn't the most helpful unit right now against multiple units on the ground, but it will definitely be able to help out against the Liberator that's following up. So, assuming it doesn't die, which it really should, not against 2 Reapers. But 4 SCVs go down, take a lot of damage. If there's a Banshee fault, that could have been devastating. A Liberator fault's gonna one-shot a SCV anyway, but this one's not going to go for it. Again, that Cyclone, that's what it was really going to be useful against. It's not going to be super helpful against, like, 3 Reapers and 3 Hellions, but there was so few units left over. The SCVs, yeah, they took a lot of damage, but at least it was held, and the game continues. Liberator's gonna, I guess, wait a while longer, hope the Cyclone gets out of position to use that. But GuMiho is the one going for the extreme greed, so he went for the pressure into Command Center, into other Command Center on location. This is something that GuMiho was punishing Ryung for doing. You know, Ryung was not getting the damage done, and he was not getting the greed behind it followed through with. So GuMiho, he does get a bit of damage done with his aggression, and he still has units out in the field kind of scaring Ryung. His Command Center's gonna finish. He's not 10, 15, 20 army supply below that of Ryung, you know? Like, this is actually working out really well. I feel this is the kind of game that Ryung wanted to have, but then just got stalled out for X or Y reason. Build didn't work out in his favor, or he was scouted and wasn't supposed to be. type of stuff. But his Banshee hopefully will be able to deal some damage. This should not kill a base, obviously, but if it can kill a couple of SCVs, maybe bring back Ryung to a decent position that his third command center, although much later, will still be, you know, well saturated, evenly saturated with his opponent. Marines couldn't. I thought they could have helped out against the Liberator, but just saves them instead. The Viking was going to take care of it. It wasn't even denying any mining, so it didn't matter either way. But the Banshee comes into here, and GuMiho does not have a lot of prepared... Oh, no, he has a Raven. Okay. It's like, oh, it seems kind of on GuMiho to not be prepared for this super late Banshee. But he did have a Cyclone and a Raven. Pretty perfect combo to take care of it. Gets 5 SCVs. They get Scout to the third command center. Even if he didn't have a Raven, he was about to have a scan anyway. GuMiho is the one pushing out. 2 tanks once again being dropped without a second medevac, so when they siege, they won't both be able to, you know, micro, but still well enough. And the Banshee sees this all coming. Tries to get a good position on the high ground. I think that's actually really important. Second to lock on the medevac and the Viking. Okay, that definitely is not going to get past that defense. And Ryung holds very well. A couple more SCVs going down because the Raven is without its Cyclone buddy. There he is. Barely scouts the double engineering bay? No, not quite. Auto turret should be able to take this out, which Ryung realizes and tries to find the dead space, which he does. He could secret missile it, I guess, if he really wanted to. GuMiho, not with any Vikings? Yeah, just building one right now. Well, that'll be able to take care of it. So GuMiho, one thing he definitely fell behind on, despite not investing into like Cloak like Ryung did, he still invested into the Raven and the third command center and, you know, all that. He does fall behind on Stim. He also falls like the tiniest bit behind on upgrades as Ryung also went for the double engineering bay. And now Ryung is finally putting his command center down on location. Let's actually see what this looks like on the graphs. A difference of, you know, the SCVs going down for GuMiho versus Ryung having the later third CC with still less SCVs. He had his spike, I suppose, but it is actually overall still in favor of GuMiho. Stim is almost done for Ryung, but he is on the defensive. He's not going to be able to push into this and then immediately counterattack. In fact, he probably won't even be able to push into this. This is a really good position for the tanks. Now, what he could do is load up a drop, and if he drops over here unscouted with Stim, he would slaughter quite a few SCVs, but I think he's focusing a lot on the attack. Auto turret harassment, always pretty decent. Gets a couple of the SCVs that were stuck behind there, which is funny. Does not last for very long, but does have a lot of power, so it's important that Ryung was able to move away his SCVs. Stim might be done for Ryung, but Combat Shield still isn't, so he pushes into tanks. It's still very dangerous for him. Even though Stim will get you on top of the tanks faster, and it'll get you a concave a little bit better, it's not quite as good as having the combat shields ready to go as well. Tank is found and killed, but more turret harassment goes down. Almost gets a Viking. Was chasing the Raven. Oh, I was gonna say, you could kill that Raven. Nope, JK. I think he's kind of F2'd here? A little bit? Okay, that Raven's gonna get more energy, and it's gonna come back once GuMiho's like, oh wait, he didn't die? Okay, great. 2-2 starts up for GuMiho pretty quickly here, so he will get the lead back and upgrades. He was only down like 5 seconds anyway, but now he's gonna have a good lead if Ryung doesn't start his immediately. He starts his attack, but don't see the armor. He still will have combat shields over his opponent, though. Like, and that's gonna be pretty big. It's now GuMiho on the defensive, so if he has his tanks improperly placed, or loses them because he's a little too aggressive, like this, he could die. If Ryung gets a good fight, he will push into GuMiho's third base and his production and really punish him here. Now, GuMiho has an even army supply, but I'm like struggling to try and find out where it is. I guess some of it's in the Vikings. There's a Cyclone over there. There are a lot of Marines. They're just, I suppose, not in position and are pretty damn scared of the tanks, as they should be, especially without combat shields. But it looks like GuMiho's not going to be pushed into here. He's not going to lose the game right here. He wasn't, you know, blindsided by the attack. But he certainly is on the defensive. And that's the first time that Ryung's really been able to get a good position. Actually, Ryung's going to go into it again, and no combat shields for GuMiho. The tanks were decently placed, but the concave was better, and Ryung actually does push through for the win. Now, he kills 19 SCVs, but GuMiho still has 50. If he doesn't lose the third command center, he could still bounce back from this. It looks like he's dangerously close to losing it. A one tank that had like 1 health left over tries to save it, but he's gonna lose it. The SCVs actually stop repairing because the supply depots block them out, and that should be game. Ryung with the stim in to win. That was a pretty dangerous thing to do. If GuMiho had, you know, 30-second faster combat shields and it finishes as he pushes in, that could be a very different fight. I don't think GuMiho can come back from this. He does not have an army supply lead that he's gonna, like, you know, take care of Ryung and push forward with. At most, he has 15 seconds. Okay, like more like 30 seconds. 30 seconds to push in with better upgrades. And even an attack upgrade on his tank, which is tank singular? Okay, there's another one. But I don't think he's gonna be able to do that. He would have to initiate a base trade, which I think Ryung would still win. Well, Ryung backs off. Thank you to Max Diffie for the 21-month resub. And Ryung's upgrades are all finishing. So now the only upgrade he's missing out on is the tank upgrade, which I don't think is going to be enough for GuMiho to win with a fight. GuMiho down 10 army supply. I think the one thing he could do is get a surprise attack. Like if he comes in from the right and Ryung's expecting it from the left, he could snipe the command center to bring it back down to even. That would certainly be a way to go. If he gets like a super nice concave, maybe he could do it too. Thinking on the Vikings, if his Vikings actually are able to snipe 1 or 2 medevacs that are carrying tanks, that could be a really, really great start. But all of these like potentials are really like, they're running out of time here. Ryung was 10 army supply up, now he's 15. Soon he'll be 20 and then 30. I'm surprised that GuMiho was able to get to 3-3, but he did immediately transfer over his main command center, despite having still a few minerals left over. So surprisingly, GuMiho is the one in the lead right now, as I guess he just mule dropped. But Ryung has his command center now floating over to be a 4th, quote-unquote, like whatever you want to call this, and should match that soon enough. Upgrades are actually kind of even. Ryung attack a little bit faster, but a little bit slower on the armor. Ryung has double tank production now, though. And while he won't have the +2 vehicle weapon upgrade, which I'm not even sure GuMiho is going to use appropriately because it's still so far off, it's like, you gotta still have a really good fight along with its upgrade lead to actually try and win the game. I would say also a decent drop, like, a marine drop that's fully unloaded zimming into any one of these mineral lines could absolutely wreck him, as none of these are planetaries. That could help as well. GuMiho, he's still matching the army supply at around like a 10 supply difference, which, had he not immediately transferred over the command center, would have been, I think, a lot different. But as the game goes on, it's still going to favor Ryung eventually. Double medevac drop's a little bit scary because there were Vikings, but I guess they weren't in position. There's 6 Vikings actually for GuMiho. I think he's really hoping this will surprise Ryung. But he's going to lose that 1 upgrade lead. It was going to be the tanks. Not so much anymore. At least 3-3 has already started, so losing the armory isn't such a big deal. But he wanted to find an advantage somewhere, and that was kind of the only place he would really find it. That and the Vikings. I'm really curious to see if the Vikings are going to be able to actually turn the tide at all. It almost looked like he was kind of hiding them, because I only saw 2 at first, but now he's up to 8. I just, like, this is going to be, like, taking care of Colossus, I feel. You know? Like, unless the Vikings can kill the medevacs, and medevacs are holding tanks, too, which is unlikely, first, then them being alongside the main engagement, slowly killing medevacs, I'm not sure is going to be as important. Because, like, the army of Ryung is still going to be getting a lot of tank shots off on GuMiho's, so really curious to see how this is going to go. He could, of course, win out slowly with a slow siege push because his tanks will give him that vision. But Ryung isn't at a loss of SCVs. He's still up 20. If he has to spend all of his energy on scans, he totally could. So that's, I don't think the Vikings are giving that much of a position there. Actually defending this third. So GuMiho, oh, maybe not. He didn't pick up the tank. He was focused on the other side. Still barely cleans it up with reinforcements. That's pretty good, because that was actually really scary when I saw it on the mini-map. Like I said, Ryung just has, I think, too good of a position. He's actually fallen behind in army supplies. They both get, well, as Ryung gets close to maxed out, there's only so much room with 40 extra SCVs. 16 more to go down. He's even getting a 3rd factory for triple tank production. I don't think GuMiho's gonna get the 3-0 here. Upgrades are even. Actually, no, Ryung was able to get the +2 over his opponent, so there you go. Unless Ryung makes a huge mistake, is completely out of position, or loses his medevacs again with tanks in them to the Vikings, I don't think GuMiho can actually push in here. He really wants to... Oh, okay, that's probably game. He was distracted. He was trying to clean this up. That's it. GG. Ryung takes at least 1 game back to bring the score to a 2-1. Okay, I'm getting a call. Hello.
Hey.
What's up?
I wish I had some drugs right now. That's what's up.
Okay. Well, thank you to... Okay, it wasn't actually showing up yet. Oh well. Naka for the 27-month resub.
So, what's the score currently? I've just gotten everything back online.
It's 2-1.
For Ryung?
For GuMiho.
For GuMiho. Oh, okay.
I was like, you were there long enough to see GuMiho go up 2-0.
I wasn't, actually. If you recall, second game I got kicked out of the intro.
That wasn't when you disconnected, was it? And left for
Yes.
the router?
It was, as soon as I started doing the intros, I got kicked.
Yeah, I thought you stayed around though. Oh well. But the point is, I am not gonna put your camera up, so if you don't want to have it up, then you don't have to.
Why?
Because
you
you
ashamed of
keep
the way I
on,
look?
because you keep on going down. Keep on dying. If it works for
No.
like the next half hour, then I'll put it back up. But
Wow, you guys see how this is? This is such a fucking bullshit, man.
you
She's
literally
just trying to keep me down. She knows that everyone likes me better, and she's trying to hide my face so she can get a little bit of recognition
there's
for once.
literally your face on the screen anyway in that image.
It's all good. I don't really care. So to explain what's going on, I guess for those who have just joined, I've been having issues with trying to stay connected to Korea. My actual connection's great. You know, Zarvio have a nice Skype call, no dropping, bot doesn't disconnect. It's strictly a StarCraft related thing. I don't believe restarting the router will help, but I thought I would try because it couldn't hurt more than just simply getting kicked out of the game as is.
Yep. Thank you to Bebop FX for the new sub.
Yeah, is the same Bebop we're hanging out with this weekend? What's up, man? Thank you for the Twitch Prime sub. Feels good. I guess that's the one small solace, right? The other people who are also at TwitchCon with us didn't get a chance to burn their Prime subs yet, so they could maybe use it on us. What's up, Bebop? All right, so fingers are crossed, nothing breaks, but I don't know. Semifinals. Of course, this will the winner of this will go on to fight against Beyond in the grand finals. Good times. Looking forward to that. Spot on the upper right side, though, it is going to be the blue Terran player, Ryung.
In the bottom right, as the red Terran, he is GuMiho.
So, by the way, it's like with Hard Revenge and chat about this while we're waiting. The counting shoulder strike is totally just like a fun little icebreaker thing you can do if you do it correctly. But man, it worked on everybody at TwitchCon except for like one person. But that's like one person out of like 13 or 14. It was actually pretty fun times.
Yeah. Well, you missed, I guess, Ryung's comeback. Pretty good macro game. GuMiho just unable to hold off against a main push and then a slow death from there. The Viking attempts, I mean, it was like super cool to see that kind of come back. Back in the day, a long time ago, a long time away. No, actually, it was the same Korean. It was a Korean league.
Was that supposed to be like a Star Wars thing, or what was that?
Almost, but it was also a Korean league, so it wasn't far away at all from this. There was a couple attempts to like surprise a TvT with mass Vikings. You would bulk them up, maybe even get like a second starport really quickly, and you would just get like 16 Vikings. You would come in and you would just dominate because you'd also drop on top of the remaining tanks, especially for things like a mech player. But it doesn't really work out that way in Legacy of the Void or with what GuMiho was trying to do.
Yeah, I'm speaking a little out of context, so I didn't see the game, but I was going to say, we've actually been seeing a couple of instances, because players have been bringing mech back into it, we are seeing those Vikings, those Hellions are kind of prevalent, and as a result, the bio player has to bank up and hide the like Raven with the 5 Vikings in the corner and the 6 and the 7. So I know you're referencing like long time ago in Galaxy far, far away and all that, but it's actually kind of a little bit like Colossus. Like the meta comes full swing at some point, and we're starting to see some of it reappear all over again.
Yeah. I see some people like were confused by my Colossus comment, but my point was like the same way that TvP, if the Colossus don't die quickly, they still get the shots off even if they are dying to the Vikings. I couldn't see GuMiho's Viking trick doing anything different. Like, as long as the fight was actually happening and his Marines were stimming into the tanks, what good is the Vikings killing the medevacs actually going to help when he was already in a really bad position? So the long siege outs, you know, that he was trying to do also didn't work out. So I could kind of see like a couple of different ways working with the Viking superiority, but I just don't think it really works that well. Late game Marine tank versus Marine tank. But he hopefully doesn't get into the same position that forces him into like some tricky things. Again, he was in a decent position. The game was going fine for both players, but then he got broken without combat shields. Ryung's combat shields were done and his wasn't. So that like doesn't usually happen. You know, it was a 45-second difference, I believe, and Ryung was just able to really capitalize. He noticed and he you know, ran with it. Doesn't usually happen again. More than, you know, once or twice in a best of 5. But the Banshee opener here from GuMiho could be a surprise. I don't think he's done Banshees yet. He got 1 Banshee on Apotheosis, like in the late game. That didn't even really do anything. So.
But, by the way, I was going to say real quick, because we keep going on, I was going to shout out Solus Dub before it completely disappears from chat. 32 months is a long time, and he's pied me in the face God knows how many times in the last couple of weeks. So thank you for always just supporting the channel, dude.
I said the Banshees might be a surprise. Oh, JK, they might still be. Those Hellions absolutely on top of that Reaper. But the Scout does not go down for Ryung. No scan goes down. He does already have a Viking and Cyclone in position, though. So this is like literally covering his bases against Banshee play, against Liberator play, against a Medevac play. The Banshee actually kind of circumvents and goes around, which is clever of GuMiho, as it was vertical spawn. That would have been the most obvious location for the Banshee, but you still have 2 units that deal very well against it. So all they needed was a scan. 3 SCVs is all that was lost. A bit of time in the engineering bay. Second Banshee, that's a Marine. Second Banshee's on the way now. Yeah, okay. That should not be able to do much more damage. Ryung has a 10 army supply lead. He's actually moving across the map. This really isn't that many units, but he does have a pretty key setup here with the tank and medevac. GuMiho's own army is entirely out of position. His Marines are caught and just obliterated by the tank. He has to decide right now, does he pull back? He is going to try and pull back, but his units, they're just not actually that strong. His Banshee is the strongest thing he has, but, you know, it might click once and then be scanned, and that'll be it. This is already so much damage done. 21 SCVs have gone down. Now, apparently GuMiho had quite an advantage in SCVs, so he still is only down 9. But that was a lot of damage. And Ryung was not cleaned up with his army either. He actually is retreating now with it.
The fact that there is no immediate counter to win. Like, normally when we see these situations, you dive so early, you dedicate so much, you're left with no army supply, but that's not the case at all. And the fact that, I mean, just the fact that this is mech puts him in such a worse spot for, like, trying to get an army up quickly. 2 Banshees have the potential to get some damage down, but with the turret and the Vikings, yeah, immediately shut down. Even the Cyclone doesn't die to this. Both Cyclones alive, both Banshees dead, and this doesn't look like GuMiho's got much of a chance at all.
No, it looks like he still wants to do like some type of attack. No.
It should be stated though, by the way, like if this is a game where Ryung wants to play passive and give GuMiho time to recover, that's everything in the world GuMiho wants. His SCV count's not so bad. His production is what lacks the most. And if Ryung's pushing now, and it looks like he is, and he gets on top of these Hellions early, it's not easy for Ryung to bring these back. And then while Hellbats with Blue Flame look overpowered like 90% of the time you see them versus Bio, that's when they're accompanied with an appropriate amount of medevacs. This is going to be a very easy fight for Ryung to win, I feel.
GuMiho was planning on that specific attack too, but his plans really got stalled here by taking so much damage early on. He wanted the +1, he wanted the Blue Flame, and he wanted like 6 medevacs with this, but it's, oh my god, Ryung with a full wall off.
But this is so good when you consider it's Hellbats, right? Like, the only way over that wall is to literally go over it, and the Medivacs barely are able to do just that. High ground vision is still not an issue. GuMiho now landing his Vikings. And this game, oh, I really like it.
And you're gone. So, this game is over. So is Miffkin's mic, and again, like, that damage done early on, it did not kill GuMiho's SCV count to, like, 10 to 40 or anything like that, but it did severely interrupt his plans. His plan really was all about hitting at a time when the Terran bio production was not that strong. Ideally, when they weren't prepared for it either, like, they're still all clumped up with their tanks and marines, and they didn't have any Vikings, and it just did not work out that way. Ryung takes game number 4 and takes us to the ace match.
So, assuming that you can hear me now, you should call me. See what that
Okay.
fixes it.
Hi.
Clearly, somebody out there does not like me gushing about how cool I thought that wall off was.
Yeah. It really does seem to be when, like, if things get excited and everything is very loud, that everything starts to go to hell. That's the only thing I can see, though. Like,
I understand what you mean. Like, it doesn't, because we've got all our stuff set to not take over priorities. It shouldn't do that, but logically, it's the only thing that makes sense. Like, straight up just Occam's razor, but
it's the only thing I could report to Skype when they're like, "What's wrong?" Everything. It's not gonna go to a break. Lobby's already set up. It's the ace match. After this is the grand finals, a guaranteed TvT, as Bjorn is waiting there. It's another best of 5, and I will probably have a break in between the end of this and the beginning of that. But that's what we'll be going to next. And it looked like GuMiho was going to be the one to go for a very long time. He was just denying Ryung at every turn. But now Ryung has really brought it back. And now he's looking like he's the one to take it. Like, his last 2 games have been very just like, what Ryung, I guess, is supposed to be known for is, like, brilliant TvT play. It's like he recognizes the situation, and then he attacks, and then he wins.
I'm not sure we shouted out either, but the Rabbit22 hit us up with a Twitch Prime sub.
Woo!
So thank you very much. And chat says Rage Kitty just subbed, but that beat the bot and Twitch alerts, so I don't know how that works. It's wonky. Regardless, though, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Sorry for the little issues here on my end, but this is why Zombie Girl very specifically... Oh, there we go. Rage Kitty just subbed with Twitch Prime for the 8th month resub. Nice. This is why Zombie Girl actually streams the Olimoleague instead of myself, because of these issues coming up. So you guys don't lose the stream if my shit starts falling apart for whatever reason that I can't seem to figure out.
Yeah, we would have to restart and told them to remake the game quite a few times at this point if you were... That's super bummer. But it's ace match. Yeah, it's teamwork. It's the ace match, and hopefully everything is well set up, except for Skype, I suppose. It's New Gettysburg, the last map available, so no one really chose this, despite GuMiho being the one who lost last game. It's a best of 5, 2-2 in the bottom left. As the red Terran, he is GuMiho.
And is the bottom right going to be the blue Terran Ryung. Now, the fact that this has gone 2-2 is actually great for me. Like, regardless whether GuMiho was going to win or Ryung was going to win, if this ended up being a 3-0 and it was just like one-sided, no fun, then I really would think that the finals itself would also be kind of bunk. There's very few Terran players that can actually contend with Ryung, or sorry, excuse me, with Bjorn. And like, aside from reality in the past, neither GuMiho nor Ryung have been that sort of contender. So it's good to see that the TvTs are both on par right now, and I would love to see either of them take a game off Bjorn in those finals.
Yeah. At one point, Bjorn didn't have the most confident-looking TvT. His engagements were pretty wonky. But that was like 2 months ago at this point. His TvT now looks as good as his TvZ, as in it almost looks unbeatable some days. Like, GuMiho and Ryung should be contenders, but I think GuMiho was actually like 3-0'd last time he played against Bjorn or something. So he's on a pretty good hot streak. So whoever faces him will have quite the uphill battle, but whoever faces him is already in quite a lot of money. Getting 2nd place in Olimoleague is still pretty nice. Getting 3rd and 4th place in the Olimoleague is already pretty damn nice.
Yeah, again, for everyone who missed it earlier, the Olimoleague is powered through Patreon. It's through your contribution, so we can afford to pay players as much as possible. And so everybody showed up today. Like, you get paid down to the 8th place prize. It's like $50 just for showing up and losing. if that's the case. But obviously winning's better, and there's a lot of money for it. $450 for first place. Again, made possible by combination Twitch Korea and you guys, the Patreons to the Olimoleague. You guys who sub to the channel, you're fucking rad too, and thank you so much for being awesome. But of course, it is the Patreon that supports the Olimoleague. Yep.
Patreon.com/Olimoleague if you want to check it out. Additionally, it's twitch.tv/Olimoleague, I believe. It's also on the Team Liquid sidebar. But if you want to see the studio setting, they do have the player cams up and running during the games. So it's always pretty cool. And we'd love to have that too, but things have just not worked out to get that set up. Thank you to Black Box with a bunch of extra X's, damn, for the new sub.
It just sounds like he's describing the censor bar on porn, like, you know, it's like the black box.
X, yeah.
Thank you for the Twitch Prime sub, my man. It's very appreciated. Now, GuMiho coming across the map, or splits away. Those two Reapers look like they're going straight for the natural, and I don't know what just happened.
Psych. Got the casters real good. I don't know either. Well, I mean, okay, so I guess you haven't seen at least 2 of the games, and they might have both been when the attempted fast third bases on location have gone down. That was usually after an attack, though, or while an attack was happening, so it's not like GuMiho was going to get lucky finding a super, super greedy third base. But he might just be able to stall it out anyway, like whenever it does come down, because this Reaper's not being scouted. You clever, clever little spy. Well, it's Banshee versus Drop. Drop for Ryung, Banshee for GuMiho. Reaper actually decided to get a scout in, and it was almost well timed enough to bypass. Oh no, it still was. Oh, it still skirts the edges, gets in here. Didn't quite see the medevac, but it doesn't see anything on the starport, which at the very least tells you, okay, no Banshee, which would have been, I think, the first fear, is that you weren't prepared for a Banshee. So it's like Liberator or a medevac or a Viking. But with the units accompanied, the units that he did see, Marines and Hellions, he might just guess that it was a medevac. GuMiho has a couple of units himself that can pair up pretty well, especially if he catches the medevac unloading. Doesn't quite do that, though. Grenade goes down. His Banshee's almost on the way out. That'll be able to... Oh, there it is. The second Banshee's almost on the way out. It almost has Cloak as well, but honestly, I think... Oh, appropriately microed. Would have been able to take care of it without the Cloak, but no, he needed it. Uh-oh.
This little amount of units, like, he's gonna have to pull SCVs into this. I think he realizes it too a little bit too late. Tries to prioritize killing the Hellions so the splash damage won't be there. The Cyclone comes out, gets a lock on the medevac, and looks like this should get cleaned up. But that was 7 very unnecessary SCV kills.
Yeah, he was so close to being able to take care of that. And it was like the Cloak was literally almost done. He waits 2 more seconds on the Banshee. It doesn't have much health, but it does clean up like 4 more Marines and then a scan. Like that would have been a lot better. So now he also knows that it's Banshees, by the way, which I don't think Ryung had scouted the main. No, he had not. So he's able to prepare for that. Viking, Cyclone. 2 Vikings, actually. This one is... okay. Good thing the Cyclone isn't there to take care of it. Gonna go back home now. The third is actually going to be sniped by the Banshee, as the Reaper, of course, sacrificed himself to scout, but still, point is, denial on the third base timing.
Nice to get some use out of these Banshees after that first one was such a bust, but...
Oh.
Between the Viking and the potential lock-on, I don't think it's too much issue. We just saw the command center too. It's got tons of scan energy. This Banshee shouldn't be too much of an issue at all.
It's being a real pain in the butt though. Like it's literally just bouncing back and forth, and without a scan, the Viking is not doing much. He wants to get it killed. He doesn't want to just scan and then have it leave. So he finally gets it, but it's actually going to get out of range.
By the way, looking at GuMiho's side of the map while this goes on, is he just going straight into mech? I guess again.
Yeah, he is. Second factory on the way.
Okay, well, even before the factory, I was going to say Stim's just starting way too late if that's the case. But, alright, yeah, second factory. I love seeing some mech. Now, there's a couple different ways to play mech. Obviously, the one we got to see last game was not too impressive. Hellions all died too early. We didn't get too much out of it. But him going faster into tanks and heavier on the Vikings. I got to say, I really do like mech because of the air control it provides. Back when they were, like, I'm of the opinion, back when they were trying to fix tanks and they had the delay shot and all these other things, I like the idea that TvT was heading this direction where air control was going to be a big deal. Like, you don't want them unloading, so you need the Vikings to prevent that. I'm just sad that we never saw it go that direction.
Ryung was one of the players in whatever Olimoleague he last played in. In TvT, he was trying to go for, like, those super fast starports against Reality, I think. I think that was the matchup. And Reality didn't care, or vice versa. I can't remember. The point is, fast starports against a mech player, and then the mech player just like dominated. So it's like it is a give and take for getting those super fast starports in reaction to. It's the two options though, really. You either go for a lot of bio and you pull the mech player apart, or you go up to additional starports and try and get the Viking control and then eventually Liberator control, and then, God forbid, maybe even eventually like straight up air wars between the two.
Yeah.
Which can be always a little funky.
Would love to see some of that. Double armories though for GuMiho. That's gonna be really expensive actually. Right now he straight up doesn't have the gas to go for like one upgrade, much less two.
Yeah, that's pretty greedy. But as he did get the third base up and running without much, I don't think it was denied at all. And the gas is getting down immediately. This is something that he can try and afford quicker than later.
I am really curious to see. Obviously, I'm a lot more interested in the factory than the armory and these other buildings. But like, if they tone down the gas costs, how much that would affect Terran?
Of the armories or the factories?
Well, just I mean, of buildings in general. Like, because aside from your barracks, pretty much everything costs gas, right? And I'm wondering if, like, obviously, Mac, its biggest weakness is its production. Would simply being able to slap down 5 factories casually and bridge that problem?
I don't know.
Well, either way, 3 medevacs are going to sail through the south. They're pretty much fully loaded with tanks, of course, inside, a cyclone and another. It's going to be really tough for GuMiho to defend this. This is not in position ahead of time. Oh, this is bad. This is his production just now getting up. And this falls right under that category of what I just described.
The Vikings took care of the medevacs, so there's no retreat for Ryung here. The Hellions finally break through. The SCVs were really keeping his Hellions back to help clean this up, and the tanks only just come back as well.
Yeah, actually, the SCVs were terrible in that choke. If they had been mineral walked away, that may have been more helpful. I mean, almost 20 die for the defense. Plus, the fact is, like, he was just not taking a good engagement there.
He lost almost all of his Vikings, which is the worst thing that I saw happening. The Marines were target firing them once they realized what was going on. So, even though GuMiho just literally ensured his victory in the Viking War because he took out both that were in the middle of the map for Ryung, he just lost it again. Like, if Ryung wanted to, he could try and dominate the air, but neither of them are trying to. GuMiho does not go for extra starports. He does just finish up the extra factories that he meant to get in the first place. Ryung getting extra barracks right now, too. And it is just going to be a more classic, I guess, version of mech versus bio. Ryung trying to out-upgrade him, expanding him, out-producing him.
I really like the idea of trying to expand him. I think that's a lot more important. But further by the fact that these upgrades, it's really interesting because I'm not sure how big of a deal mech needs the upgrades or not. We still don't see this common enough to start talking about like +2 makes a big difference versus +3 for this engagement. But as long as Ryung is just pumping out his own upgrades, he doesn't pause, he gets the 3-3 ASAP, then the Marines and the Marauders, that damage isn't going to be lacking like we sometimes see.
Yeah. It is very important when you do have like a limited number of tanks, but if like GuMiho gets maxed out and he gets a siege up...
Is this just me?
It's just you. I don't think that 1-1 versus 3-3 will... Okay, bye. Will be the decision maker. It'll be more about how does Ryung take the fights against a mech player, which Ryung, by the way, very experienced player, has been in StarCraft all 6-7 years at this point, all different types of meta. He's played mech, he's played bio. He actually is very good at taking engagements against mech players, where some other established pro players are not. They actually mess up every single time. They stim into like tanks that are already sieged up and just lose. So, I'm pretty hopeful for him, but of course GuMiho, same deal. These guys are both the most experienced Terrans, I feel, in this. Well, actually, Bjorn was around for a long time, but he also had like 15 months where he wasn't playing, so I guess there's arguments every which way. But the point is, between these two, Bjorn going for bio and GuMiho going for mech, it's a very, very classic, very good matchup. The tanks run in, he takes care of a missile turret. As I said, like the tanks, if they're in low number, one, the upgrade's gonna work out really well for Ryung, and he does have the 2-2 finish, and then two, just, low tank numbers. You can actually take care of that. The Hellbats relate to the party, the Vikings relate to the party. They're coming in now, but they're not even on top of the army, and there's so many Marauders left over. Okay, the Vikings might live, and they might take down all the medevacs, but a lot of GuMiho's army just went down as well. He does hold the natural. Ryung has to unsiege and move elsewhere, but he can move elsewhere. In fact, if he would just check the 4th base, actually a planetary maybe he can't kill. All of his army is still kind of catching up with one another. Reinforcements here, reinforcements there. If it was all together, he would definitely take down a planetary. As it is, GuMiho saves his natural, he saves his game, and now he's trying to save his 3rd base. The Vikings can only help out so much, though. In fact, they go like the wrong direction. The medevac's to the north, man. And the tank is just not... The tank count's not getting high enough. He has to use his medevacs now to save his tanks. 20 more SCVs go down. GuMiho down 50 overall supply. His upgrades are about to finish. That'll help a little bit. 2-2 versus 2-2. But once again, very scary. Might not be able to save his third base. Actually, this is interesting. Is that on purpose? He might just assume that Ryung is going to go towards the third base, saves SCVs, or he might assume that Ryung's going to go to the fourth base and is getting ready to repair the command center, the planetary. I'm not sure, but he just transferred all of his SCVs to the planetary. Now his third base is just not mining at all. Either way, GuMiho is trying to hold on. He's down 40 army supply. He's on even upgrades for about 30 seconds longer. But he's starting to run out of minerals, of course. Ryung is as well, but has the option of, I think, expanding. He's the aggressor here. He's not the one scared of getting his bases sniped. And GuMiho needs to have perfect positioning, basically. Like, he has to hope that Ryung walks into his tanks as they're all combined together. Because I think that's the only way he's going to take a fight. 40 army supply down, and what is about to be 2 upgrades down as well. He didn't lose his medevacs, which I guess is one really good thing about these fights. He, of course, is the one with the medevac, or the Viking control. So his medevacs load up a couple of Hellbats again. And that will be helpful. This has definitely been missing from the fights, is the actual Hellbats on the Bio army. But Ryung is splitting his army up purposefully. He has a good chunk to the south, a good chunk to the north. He does take his main command center over to the middle base here. So he could even break down the rocks. In fact, that they should. He broke down GuMiho's side, but not his. That's weird. Eventually he'll get around to it, I suppose. But he's actually combining forces now. GuMiho has a lot of army supply to the north, protecting that planetary, not down here, protecting his tanks. But there's so many Hellbats. It's actually taking a long time for Ryung to break through, but he drops as well to the north, and the Vikings were unable to stop that from happening. So he gets on top of the tanks, obliterates them. The Hellbat line could only help out so much. And it looks like GuMiho actually has lost. Man, the reverse sweep. Ryung looks so bad, actually, in the first 2 games. There's just like nothing was going right for him. And then everything goes right, and he showcases why he's such a good TvT player, making the great decisions, making the split-second decisions to attack when maybe others would not. They would have played it safe. Last couple of tanks up to the north with the planetary are actually also taken care of. GG, GuMiho takes, or Ryung takes game number 5.
Not so surprising, considering the game was looking, like, before I got kicked out even, the game was already looking that bad for him, but cool, nicely done. I think, though, if you don't mind solo casting the finals, I'm not going to try. I'm at this point, just, I'm worried the players are going to get pissed off seeing me constantly leaving.
Possibly. I don't know. Well, it sucks that this has been like 4 Olimoleagues now, where everything just goes to shit for you. Thank you to biggest Big Mo for the new sub.
It sucks for me just because for the, like, if I knew what the problem was, I could at least focus on fixing it. It's just the fact that we don't know what the problem is.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they've got to bring Beyond's computer over. We'll be a few minutes. Maybe I'll be here when the commercials are back, but in case I'm not, thank you guys for tuning in, and make sure to give Zymegrab love and your Twitch Prime subs and all that good stuff. Thank you to biggest Big Mo for the Twitch Prime sub as well. But commercials, we'll try and figure it out, and I'll maybe see you guys later, maybe not.